Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen, hanging out in the studio with my buddy and pal, Tony Shore. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Barb. It's great to be here today. I'm
Yes,
excited.
we have been so remiss because we have been recording shows ahead of time.
Yeah,
So we haven't talked about things like sports. And
true.
I have to. Patrick Mahomes reports to training camp next week, and
Oh boy.
by the time this airs, he will have already reported to training camp. But I can't believe, with all of the buzz with the World Cup being on the North American continent
Yeah.
this time around, and with baseball being one of those years where, this is where you prove if you're truly a fan. I can't believe that we are already getting ready to start talking about training camp, and then preseason's going to be right around the corner.
I
And
know.
where is the year going?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, where the year is headed
Mhm.
is toward a lot of Vikings victories. And I think we'll do much better than the Chiefs this year, the Vikings. What do you think?
I think that's really adorable of you to think that, Tony.
A boy can dream, right?
Well, Travis Kelce is coming back for at least one more season, even though he got married a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I thought, why is he still playing football? It seems like
I
he's involved with other things.
Well, and he said that it was seeing his wife's passion for what she does that he realized that he still has passion for the game and isn't ready to hang it up and give up the cleats.
Right.
So,
There you go.
um,
That's
but
interesting. He probably has one more good year in him.
let's hope so.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Planning for your eventual retirement is something that, let's face it, he's 36,
Mhm.
gonna be 30, 89. He'll be 37.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so
old for a football player.
it is old for a football player, but it's young to be thinking about retirement.
Yeah, it's really
And
young. Can you imagine? You've never had somebody that young to talk to you about retirement, have you? I mean, or
not
say
to
they
be retiring eminently, no.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
um,
Obviously,
and
people can ask you about how to save for retirement at any age, and
right,
hopefully
right.
they do. Uh,
Start young, save often.
yeah,
Um,
that's what we're talking about today. Savor
it is,
it's like
and
voting it's like voting in Chicago, Barb.
right.
Save early, save often. They always say vote early, vote often in Chicago.
You know, as somebody who has cousins that are on the Chicago police force, I'm not even going to comment on that.
I love Chicago, but
So do I. So do
yeah.
I. And what's interesting is Travis Kelce has built an entire brand outside of his football
Yes.
career
Yeah.
where he's retiring to something, not just retiring from football.
Right. Yeah, he's smart. I mean, he's got a popular podcast. He's got a lot of imaging. He's involved with a lot of things. He does a lot
He does
outside
a
of
lot of
football.
philanthropic and charitable work around
Yes, he
Kansas City
does,
and
which
supports
is
a couple
really
of
great.
it is.
I'm
Um,
shocked he's coming back, honestly.
Lots of people are.
Yeah,
Lots of people
it's
are.
interesting. But we
But
should be talking about baseball because it's still baseball season. And let's
it
talk about
is.
should we talk about the Royals and where they're
Well,
at in the standings? Or
let's forget the standings. Let's talk about
I bet you want to forget those standings.
good God,
They're in last place.
resoundingly.
Yeah.
But a couple of days before we're recording this podcast, Salvador Perez tied George Brett's record for the
Oh,
most home runs by a Kansas City Royals player.
awesome. That's awesome. That is great to hear.
Earlier this year, he broke George Brett's record for the number of home runs at Kauffman Stadium. And there's enough games left in the season. I'm pretty sure he's about to break George Brett's record too. And he hit it into the fountains at Kauffman in true Salvi fashion. And somebody jumped into the fountains to retrieve the ball. which is a no-no. There are signs posted everywhere that say
Oh.
if you jump in the fountains, you will be arrested, and he was.
Oh,
So,
no.
um, I understand it, because if they don't do that, people will do dumb things. Because
Right.
when you have sporting events, alcohol and water, that is not a healthy
No.
trifecta of things.
No, but to get that historic ball,
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
come
and
on.
I know that Salvi made a comment about it. I have not read that comment yet, because I was on the road the last couple of days going to visit some precious clients in Oklahoma City,
Oh,
um, which I loved getting to see all of them in person. Most of the time I just see them on Zoom or we talk on the phone, but I got to meet with some younger people while I was there.
okay.
And, the question becomes, how do I know how much I need to save for retirement?
Big question.
It is
Everybody
a
has that question.
huge question,
Yeah.
and it's a moving target.
Yeah, it is.
And it is something that, as a financial advisor and as a fiduciary and as somebody who works with the planning process for people, this is something that is the biggest question everybody has, and isn't always as easy to quantify an answer as you would think. Because for a lot of people, the how much you need to save for retirement depends on the lifestyle you think you want to have,
Yeah.
while also incorporating managing the risk and planning for the contingencies of what if you get sick and you get disabled before you're old enough to retire and we have to retire early.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, you
happens?
don't always get to choose when you
No,
wanna when you're
no.
going to retire. A
when you
lot of
when you're
people
going to
don't.
retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are. I mean, let's go back to football for a second. I was really quite surprised when Derrick Henry came back after his cardiac arrest event a couple of
Yes.
years ago on
Yeah.
the field.
Me too.
Um, but and it's also planning for what if I need long-term care. Is there a history of Alzheimer's or dementia or
Mhm.
spinal stenosis or something that could put you in a position, or Parkinson's, you're dealing with Parkinson's with your parents. You
Yeah,
know,
both of them.
how do we plan for those contingencies so that we have that cost of care planned for? And if we know that we're not going to be able to save adequately to cover it, what do we do from a Medicaid planning standpoint so that we're doing it properly, so that the state doesn't come back and try to seize assets that were improperly transferred or what have you.
Sure.
So, all of this to say that when we are looking at how much you need for retirement, we will look at what your lifestyle costs are now. We will pad it a little bit, because we really hope that when you retire that you're not retiring just to a rocking chair and from a job. We want you to retire to those adventures and to those go-go years, to the things that you want to do now while you're working, but you can't because you're working.
Right.
So we're going to come up with a number for what that lifestyle cost would be in today's dollars. Then we're going to make some adjustments for inflation and try to project that out. And then we're going to back it down and say, okay, by the time you retire, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you would need to save this number of dollars. You want to retire in this many years. So we need to get to this dollar amount in this number of years, which means that we need to save this much through your employer plan, through your discretionary savings in your brokerage accounts, cover it with life insurance in the event that something catastrophic happens and you're gone too soon, and then try to plan for contingencies on top of that.
Yeah.
Doesn't this
Yeah.
sound like something you could do on a Saturday afternoon all by yourself?
No, it definitely doesn't. But the good news in all that is there are ways to beat the high cost of retirement, and
There
even
are.
even deal with things like long term care, as costly as that may be. There are ways to protect your assets.
There are.
You need to look at estate and legacy planning, like we talked about in last week's show with inherited IRAs. You don't want to leave your loved ones or your spouse or your family in a bad situation. So get all this planned out, but it starts with saving and as young as possible. I mean,
Right.
had I known now, when I was 21, had I had the knowledge then, I'd be a wealthy
And the
man.
developed brain. Let's go to 25, because by then you're like, oh, wait, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's weird, because my wife says my brain still isn't developed. But that's
not for this podcast.
That's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic for a whole other time. And one where we might need to get your wife on the mic too.
Oh no, that's not going to happen. Then I'd be in big trouble. Big trouble.
She is the introvert to your extrovert.
Yes.
So, but when we're looking at those numbers, it can be overwhelming. Let's pull an arbitrary example out and say that you've got to save $35,000 a year to be able to retire the way you want. And you notice that when we are planning for this, that we are not necessarily relying on something like Social Security.
Right.
Now, we might factor in a pension, because the pensions, I think, are a little bit more stable.
Yes.
But we know that there are going to have to be changes made to Social Security.
Yes.
And within the next decade, or really within the next 5 years, for us to look at the longevity and the solvency of Social Security. So, if we are trying to save that $35,000 or $40,000 a year, how are we doing it? The good news is things like your employer matching contributions to your 401k or your 403b or your TSP, those employer matches get added into that $35,000.
Right.
Because we are saving for a number. It doesn't matter where the number comes from. We just want to see if we can achieve that number.
Yeah.
And that number for everybody is going to be different.
It is different. And I think that's huge. Obviously, you do have to take all those things into consideration and look at, okay, where is this money going to come from? But you're right. Things like taking advantage of the employer match. You mentioned that. Right. That is huge. That's free money that a lot of people leave some of it on the table. The minute you get your first full-time job, you should put in enough to take advantage of the full match.
Absolutely. And it might make sense for you to contribute to the Roth if there's a Roth 401k option with your employer, or a Roth 403b. It might not. You might be a high earner who needs every tax deduction you can get. Again, like I have said just about every other podcast, I am an advisor. I am not your advisor. And even if I am your advisor, I'm not giving you advice right now.
Right.
But, when we look at putting all of these things together aggregately, and it's other lifestyle things like, do you plan to pay the house off before you retire? And if the house is paid off, are you going to stay in the house, or are you going to move to a maintenance-free community or a senior living community where you are then selling the house and using the proceeds from the house to pay rent every month? And how many years of rent do we have at the cost for what it is in that community versus what you're going to get in the sale of your house?
Right.
And it's also important. And one of the things, you joked last week that I'm part marriage counselor as well.
Yeah.
That
isn't that true?
Well, yes, it is. Because you'd be surprised, Tony, how many married couples come in and start talking about what they envision retirement to be like. And one is like, well, gosh, the house is paid for, but I'd really like to move out on some land and be able to have this and that. And the other spouse is like, well, I wanted to move into an apartment and not think about any of this and not have to worry about any of it anymore. And at that point, I usually get up and leave the room.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. You need to figure that out on your own time. Yeah.
or we deflect and say, well, obviously that's something that you guys are going to need to come to an agreement on before we can really lock down any of these numbers and figure out which way we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because both of those are very different from living in a paid off house.
Yeah. Very.
Especially if you are fortunate enough to live in a state. Like I said, I was in Oklahoma City this week visiting with some of my clients down there, and Oklahoma is their property taxes and their insurance is really very low compared to the states north and south of them, for sure.
Yeah.
So, when one was talking about, if we pay off the house, it frees up this much every month. And I'm like, does it really? Because we still have taxes and insurance. And they told me what the escrow was. And I was like, dang, maybe I need to move to Oklahoma. And they're like, yes. And I'm like, no, not happening. But, and there's legislation in the state of Oklahoma, possibly for retirees, that would eliminate all property taxes once you reach retirement age.
Yeah.
Just eliminate them altogether. So again, it depends on, are you going to relocate? Are you going to stay where you are? What are you going to do in retirement that is different from now? Because we need to assign a dollar figure to that.
Right.
And then multiply that out and figure out with time value of money, how long you've got to save it, what kind of risk we can take, and see what it will take to actually get us to that number. So like I said, easy peasy, something to do on a Saturday afternoon while the baseball game's on, right? Not really.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to it, obviously. Yeah. And, yeah, hopefully you're not watching a Royals game. No, I'm kidding. I like it.
Your Twins are actually doing somewhat decently. I saw that
they're okay. Yeah.
Well, they're
doing
better
good.
than they have been.
Yeah, they're at the middle of the pack in our division. So yeah, they're up there.
We're glad to be propping you up there.
Yeah, you in Detroit, we got quite the division this year.
Yeah, well, and we lost to Detroit last night, so
yeah, that didn't help. Well, hey, we want to beat the high cost of retirement, and the how is work with a trusted financial professional. Get the help you need. Ask the questions. And now, after the show, after what you've told us, Barb, we know some of the questions we need to be asking, some of the things we need to be doing. But I think our listeners and viewers should sit down with you and have a talk about it, figure out where they're at.
Sometimes you need somebody from the outside looking in.
Yes.
And somebody who has seen these scenarios play out. Because the unexpected things happen, like having the White Sox currently leading our division.
That's crazy.
I can't remember the last time that happened. So
could change though. Baseball, they play a lot of games. Those
they do.
Yeah,
and somebody
goes on a winning streak or a losing streak, and it all changes.
Yeah, because they're only a game and a half ahead of the next team. But talking to a fiduciary, talking to somebody who, I joke with people because I went to school for electrical and computer engineering. And so numbers have been my jam from a very young age.
Sure.
But understanding how to apply those numbers and what we need to do to make them work for you is more crucial when we are talking about your future than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So how can our listeners out there get a hold of you?
Call our offices at area code 913-553-6222. Or if you want to do this online, reach out to us at our website, bgwealthmanagement.com. On our homepage, there's a button you can click to schedule that complimentary, no cost, no obligation consultation. We will take a second look at everything for you and make sure that you are on track to achieve that retirement goal. And if there are places where we can recommend adjustments or course corrections, we will offer that to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, save early, save often.
And make sure that you have insurance in case something happens too soon.
There you go. Well, thanks, Barb. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gullen.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks.